My NFJ friend, I want you to settle in for this. Not because it's soft, but because it's true. The INFJ is not just a personality type, it is a rare constellation in the human psyche, a quiet strategist. A visionary who observes far more than they reveal. Someone who moves through the world guided by an inner compass of meaning rather than noise. You've always known this about yourself, haven't you? You see more than you say, you feel more than you show, and you think in layers most people don't even realize exist. This video is not here to flatter you, it's here to name you. Because living as an INFJ often feels like walking through the world slightly out of phase with it, like you're tuned to a frequency others can't hear, you're present but separate, engaged but observing, caring deeply but holding back just enough to survive. This is a deep exploration of your cognitive architecture, the way empathy and analysis braid together inside you, the way intuition meets logic, the way compassion collides with restraint. We're going to talk about how you bring logic to emotional chaos without ever raising your voice, why you read the unspoken language of behavior so fluently, the silent war inside you between feeling everything and needing to retreat, how you sense before you think and heal without being asked, and how your mind was never meant just for insight but for transformation. If you've ever felt like a scientist of the human soul, if you've ever wondered why you can see 10 moves ahead but still feel exhausted, if you've ever been told you're too intense when all you were doing was being honest, you're in the right place. I'd genuinely love to hear your thoughts as we go. If something lands, leave a comment, I read them and I reply. And if this kind of depth speaks to you, subscribe. This space is for people who think fiercely and feel deeply, no bullshit, no noise. Now let's begin. 1. How the rarest mind brings logic to emotional chaos. You don't react to emotion the way most people do. You translate it. Where others drown in emotional storms, you step back and start mapping the weather. You ask, what's actually happening here? What's underneath this reaction? Where is this headed? Your mind doesn't reject emotion, it organizes it. This is the paradox of the INFJ. You feel deeply, yet your first instinct is not to explode or collapse. It's to understand. When someone around you is spiraling, you don't just absorb their pain, you instinctively begin constructing meaning around it. You trace cause and effect. You notice patterns in behavior, tone, timing. You connect emotional dots others don't even see. This is why people come to you in crisis. Not because you fix them, but because you stabilize the chaos simply by being present. You bring logic where emotion has lost structure. But here's the part no one tells you. This ability costs energy. Every time you translate emotional noise into coherence, you're doing invisible labor. You're holding space, regulating tension, anchoring the emotional field. And because you do it quietly, without drama, without credit people forget its work, you've probably been told you're calm under pressure. What they don't see is the internal calculus happening behind your eyes. You're not detached. You're disciplined. And that discipline is what allows you to bring order without control, clarity without domination, leadership without ego. When was the last time you brought calm to a situation without anyone realizing how much effort it took? 2. The mind that reads the unspoken language of behavior. You don't listen the way others do. You listen between words. A pause, a shift in posture, a laugh that lands half a second too late. You notice the things people don't mean to reveal, and you never announce that you've noticed. This is because your perception isn't surface-based, it's relational. Your mind is constantly scanning for congruence between what's being said and what's being felt. When those two don't align, you feel it immediately. That's why lying feels loud to you. Why manipulation feels obvious. Why performative kindness makes your skin crawl. You read people not because you judge them, but because you attune to them. And this is where many INFJs feel isolated, because once you see beneath the mask, you can't unsee it. You carry knowledge others are still unconscious of. You know when someone's acting from fear. You know when power is being disguised as concern. You know when love is being confused with control. And sometimes you wish you didn't, because seeing clearly often means staying silent. Not everyone is ready for the truth you perceive, so you hold it, you wait. You choose your moments carefully. That's not passivity, that's strategic compassion. How often do you know what's really happening long before anyone else does? 3. The silent war. Feeling everything versus needing to retreat. Here's the war. No one sees you fighting. You are wired to feel deeply and wired to withdraw to survive. That contradiction lives in your nervous system every single day. You want connection, but you also need solitude. You crave intimacy, but you require space. And when those needs collide, it can feel like you're tearing yourself in half. You stay too long because you care, you listen longer than you should, you hold space past your own capacity, and then suddenly you're gone. Not because you stopped loving, not because you stopped caring, but because your system hit overload. People misinterpret this rhythm. They call you inconsistent, cold, unavailable, emotionally confusing. But what's really happening isn't rejection, it's regulation. Your nervous system processes emotional input at an intense level. Background tension, unresolved conflict, subtle shifts in tone, unspoken expectations, your body registers all of it. Even when no one else notices, your system does. And when there's no release valve, no silence, no space to recalibrate, something begins to erode. Your clarity fades. Your patience thins, your inner world gets noisy. That noise often turns inward. Instead of recognizing overload, an inner voice creeps in. Why can't I handle this? Why do I need so much space? What's wrong with me? This is where many INFJs begin turning their sensitivity against themselves. Withdrawal isn't avoidance. It's maintenance. Solitude isn't isolation. It's medicine. When you retreat, you're not abandoning connection. You're preserving your ability to return whole instead of resentful, grounded instead of fractured. Learning to honor this rhythm connection followed by retreat is essential for INFJs. It's also why working with your inner world matters so deeply. If this resonates, my book, Get Out of Your Head, speaks directly to this struggle. It explores how the inner critic forms, why it becomes so loud in sensitive, perceptive minds, and how practices like meditation, reframing self-limiting beliefs, and cultivating healthier internal dialogue can help you stop attacking yourself for needing space. The book is available on Amazon in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook formats. Get your copy now. The link is in the description below, because the goal isn't to feel less. It's to stop punishing yourself for feeling deeply. When you honor your need for space, clarity returns. When you ignore it, burnout follows. Your withdrawal is not a flaw. It's an intelligent response from a finely tuned system. What happens to your clarity, your mood, and your self-talk when you ignore your need for space? 4. They sense before they think, and heal without being asked. INFJ, your intuition fires before your thoughts can assemble a sentence. You don't decide to notice, your system simply does. You walk into a room and feel the temperature shift. Not physical temperature, emotional weather. Something is tight. Something is unresolved. Something is being performed instead of felt. You meet someone, and before names, before stories, before facts, there is a signal. Ease or friction, safety or warning. And you rarely need proof. This isn't magic, and it isn't guesswork. It's pattern recognition refined through empathy and time. Your mind has been quietly collecting data for years. Tone shifts, pauses, contradictions between words and body language, the emotional residue people leave behind after they speak. Most of this never reaches conscious thought, but it lands. By the time others are still gathering facts, you already feel the truth in your body. That's why your intuition often feels instantaneous. Not because it came from nowhere, but because it came from everywhere at once. And because you don't need external permission to trust what you sense, you move differently. You don't announce conclusions. You don't argue for your insight. You adjust quietly. You choose your words carefully or choose silence. Decisive without drama. Certain without needing applause. The same attunement is why you heal without being asked. You don't heal by fixing. You heal by witnessing. You listen without interrupting the soul. You hold eye contact that doesn't rush. You sit in silence that doesn't demand resolution. And something in people softens. Your presence alone slows nervous systems down, makes people feel seen without being dissected, heard without being corrected, safe enough to exhale for the first time in a long while. You don't take their pain away. You make it survivable. And often they never realize what happened. They just leave feeling lighter, clearer, more like themselves. This is quiet power, the kind that doesn't announce itself, the kind that leaves no receipt, the kind that changes people without claiming credit, but it comes at a cost. Because when you sense before you think and heal without being asked, you must learn when not to offer that gift. Not every room deserves your attunement. Not every person has earned your presence. Your intuition isn't meant to be constantly on. Your healing isn't meant to be endlessly available. Discernment is the next evolution of your gift. How many times have you carried someone through a moment they never realized you held, and what did it cost you afterward? 5 From intuitive analysis to transforming human discovery. You were never meant just to understand people. That was only the first layer. You were meant to change the trajectory of understanding itself. INFJs aren't here to dominate systems, climb ladders, or win loud arguments. You're here to quietly question the architecture of reality as it exists and imagine what it could become if empathy and logic stopped fighting like enemies. You see the invisible fractures in systems long before they collapse. You sense when a culture is sick, when a relationship model is outdated, when a way of thinking is doing more harm than good even if it still works on paper. Because you don't think in silos, you think in ecosystems. Emotion informs logic. Logic stabilizes emotion. Insight demands action or it rots. That's your gift, synthesis. You bridge worlds most people keep separate. Feeling and reasoning, soul and structure. Vision and implementation. Where others polarize, you integrate. And for a long time, this has made you feel like an outsider? Too idealistic for pragmatists. Too analytical for dreamers. Too deep for casual spaces. Too quiet for leadership that rewards volume over clarity. So you learn to shrink, to translate yourself down, to soften your insight so it wouldn't intimidate, to second-guess what you knew because it didn't arrive the normal way. But here's the truth most INFJs take too long to claim. Your mind is not a curse. It's an instrument tuned to patterns beneath behavior, to meaning beneath chaos, to future implications hidden inside present choices. And when you stop trying to survive in systems that don't know what to do with you, when you stop asking permission to think the way you think, something extraordinary happens. You stop surviving, you start shaping, you influence without force. You lead without spectacle. You change lives, models, conversations, and entire trajectories simply by asking better questions and holding a deeper frame. This is not about ego, it's about responsibility. What might change in your work, your relationships, your sense of purpose if you trusted that your way of seeing is not only valid, but necessary? My INFJ friend, you were never broken. You were never too much. You were never meant to fit neatly into a shallow world that confuses noise for truth. You were rare. And rarity always looks strange at first, especially in a culture built for speed, certainty, and surface-level answers. A constellation isn't obvious when you're standing inside the night. It only reveals itself when you step back far enough to see the pattern. That's what this journey is about, not fixing you, not labeling you, but remembering the shape you've always had. If this resonated, if something in you felt seen rather than explained, I'd genuinely love to hear your story. Leave a comment. I read them and I reply. And if you want more soul-centered, honest depth like this, without the bullshit, subscribe. This space is for people who think deeply, feel fiercely, and refuse to apologize for either. You are not alone in this constellation. You were just early enough to see it.